Welcome back to Gillette Stadium, everybody. My name is Mike Petraglia, joined as always by Patriots expert analyst for WEEI.com, Christopher Price. Mission accomplished, Chris. The Patriots took care of business, 34-20. They beat the Bills. There were some anxious moments, but thanks to LeGarrette Blount, a franchise record all-purpose yardage total, not too much nerves for the final couple of minutes of this one.
Yeah, they were able to kind of close it out. Like you said, there were some nervous moments there. There were some dicey moments at the end of the first and the start of the second, as well as a few moments there in the second half. But I think all in all, the Patriots played a pretty complete game. Not as good as the Baltimore win a week or so ago, but I think when you look at the circumstances, you look at the surroundings, you look at the weather outside, it was a rough one. I think that they played to the conditions, and that dictated running the ball, controlling the clock, and they got a great performance today out of their running game, LeGarrette Blount in particular.
You know, I asked Bill Belichick this after the game, actually in the press conference. Did the weather dictate the way the Patriots played? He said absolutely it did. It was a running type of game. But my question to you, Chris, is will that kind of game translate in the playoffs no matter who they play? They're going to either play Cincinnati or possibly the Chiefs or the Chargers in round number 2, the second round of the divisional playoffs.
You're going to have to get a consistent performance offensively. And again, regards to the weather, I think that's obviously going to play a huge factor in this. And if the conditions call for them to run the ball, I think they're going to be able to run the ball. And we saw tonight, the last couple of games, they've been able to run the ball very consistently. We talked about Blount and his ability to move the chains tonight. We also saw some good performances out of Stephen Ridley, who is clearly being reintegrated back into the offense. We're seeing some work from Shane Vereen. So all of that goes into the offense as a totality. When you look at what you need from this offense, you're going to need a solid performance out of the running game. I think that there is a school of thought, and I know you're writing on this, that the Patriots are going to need to be able to run the ball and run it consistently in the postseason if they want to have a chance of playing deep into January.
Well, I think the versatility of the run game that you touched on is going to be something that's very important. We saw Shane Vereen, like he did against Baltimore the week before, catch one of those swing passes out in the flat for a touchdown from Tom Brady. The way Tom Brady is playing, how do you measure it? Because some Patriot fans are going to be concerned about the way Brady has played. He hasn't been particularly accurate on the deep ball, and there's going to be the concern that can Brady and the Patriots offense challenge other teams like Cincinnati, let's say, in that second weekend in January? Can they challenge them deep?
Well, I think when you're looking at today's game, and I'm not talking about the entire season, but you look at today's game, the Bills came into this game as one of the best teams in the league against the pass. And I think that you take what you can get in situations like that. There weren't a lot of five-step drops today. Brady wasn't spending a lot of time in the pocket, patting the ball, looking around. I think he was sacked once today. The emphasis was on getting the ball out as fast as possible. And I think we saw that today with some of the screen stuff, some of the short stuff over the middle. I know Julian Edelman had 8 or 9 catches on the day, was able to do a good job again moving the chains. We saw that pass, like you said, the swing pass to Shane Vereen. So I wouldn't be surprised to see more of that going forward. But again, in the context of this game, you have to remember the Bills were real good against the pass. And so when you look at the numbers, 14 for 26 for 170-something yards, I believe it was, they're not overwhelming. But in the end, you were able to put up 34 points. You won the game. And I think that's ultimately the goal at the end of the day.
Clearly, Chris, the biggest reason the New England Patriots need the bye is the mounting injuries. We saw it again today. Big scare with Logan Mankins hobbling off with an ankle injury. He misses one series. He's Logan Mankins after all. He comes right back and really doesn't miss a beat. He was out sprinting ahead blocking on a Shane Vereen 22-yard gain on a screenplay. That's the kind of guy Logan Mankins is, but he's nicked up. Brandon Spikes had to hobble off, and of course in the first quarter we talk about the deep passing game. Aaron Dobson appeared to re-injure his left foot. He had it in a walking boot a couple of weeks ago. He left today's game and did not return. How concerned are you, and how vital is this bye week?
I think what you're looking at specifically when you want to heal up, first and foremost, in my mind, it's the secondary, because clearly guys like Talib are a little bit banged up. Dennard, McCourty, who we didn't see out there today because of the concussion. You want to get those guys as much time as possible on the shelf. You want to get them in treatment, you want to get them away from the field, and I think in that regard it certainly helps. The other thing really from the bye, from a practical perspective, is this team needs to stay at home as long as possible. This team is a different team at home than it is on the road. I know that they had the great win, the signature win over the Ravens now a couple of weeks ago. This team is 8-0 at home. This team, I firmly believe, can beat anyone in here. Going on the road, it might be a different story, but I think staying at home for as long as possible suits this team in the long run.
See, I think it's a little bit different, Chris. I think the bye week's important because you have to play one less game. I mean, let's face it, in 2010 and in 2009, they lost home games here in the playoffs after doing remarkably well. at home. So it's, pick your poison,
Exactly.
but and it depends on how you look at the bye week and how you look at the home field advantage. I think it's a bigger deal to have a week off and one less game to try and get to the Super Bowl. As far as the Patriots defense, you like the way they're playing?
Yeah, I do. I think that they're, cracks at this time of year, but quite frankly, I think everyone is going through that. I think there are no perfect teams. I think when you look at the 12 teams that are going to make the postseason this year, there's no overwhelming favorite, and that includes Seattle. Every team has its warts, and I think the Patriots have struggled at times on the defensive side of the ball. We saw that today, but they made plays today when they needed to make plays. They were, I think the Bills were 4 for 16 on 3rd and 4th down. The numbers are not overwhelming. The defensive numbers are not overwhelming, but a lot of those need to be placed in context, and I think when you look at the final product, the points are down. They've given up fewer points. I know that kind of spiked toward the middle of the year, and that was kind of going in a direction that the team doesn't always necessarily approve of. But I think the last 2 weeks, the numbers have gone down in terms of points per game, and I think that's the direction you want to be heading in going into the postseason.
Well, going into the postseason, these New England Patriots are 12-4. They have earned a first-round bye for the 4th consecutive year, the first time in NFL history since we went to this format that has been accomplished. Quite a feather in the caps of the New England Patriots. But as Bill Belichick said after the game, momentum means nothing at this time of the year. One game and you're done if you have an off game, and obviously the Patriots are well aware of that. And they will try and get back to the Super Bowl for the second time in 3 seasons. But that will begin in the second weekend in January. Patriots close out the regular season on a monsoon-like evening here at Gillette Stadium, beating the Buffalo Bills 34-20. Christopher Price, I'm Mike Petraglia, WEEI.com.